when you try to justify umpeto and the mistakes that you do, you step out of your relationship because endlini umema akakuphakeli. You find excuses for not going down the journey that you know you should. The hard walk. Vele anginalo time. How am I going to learn how to be a lion when I was raised by a lioness? It becomes those little excuses.
And I feel like more and more of us as men, we forgot what it's like to be alone when you're not in trouble.
Yeah.
Learn to be by yourself even when life is going great. We only know how to be by ourselves when the world is currently challenging us or we're going through a stormy season.
Sure.
But the problem is that when you only do that when the world is a tad bit stormy, you're always going to have negative questions that trend within your mindset.
Sure.
Guys, this is one of my favorite philosophies. You can make excuses or get results, but you can't have both.
Come on, man.
You can't. What you do today and the decisions that you make today are going to have an impact on your life tomorrow, with your children, with your wife, with your career, you name it.
Hey, what's up? Welcome to That Husband podcast with me, Black Newborn. Here we are husbands who aren't where we want to be, but certainly are not where we used to be. We are imperfect, always failing forward, trying to know better so that we can do better. Hey, what's up? Welcome to That Husband podcast with me, Black Newborn. This is where husbands try to know better so that we can do better, man. This is a special episode and we'll get into it shortly. But man, thank you so much for pulling through. If you're new, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so that you're updated on every single episode we drop every Wednesday at 11. All right, man, if you want to support us, please go visit thathusband.com and you can find all that we are putting together here for December. Check out our online store and make sure that you are buying gifts for your loved ones, buy gifts for yourselves. It's going to support us, but it will also be incredible, man, that you would be rocking merch, you'd be rocking our gear. It'll be dope for Christmas. So do check out our online store on thathusband.com. Second way you can support us is by booking me as a speaker, an MC, or facilitator for your next event. Make sure that you are lining up those events. 2026, man. We ready and we want to connect. So please drop us an email at booking@blacknewborn.com. That's booking@blacknewborn.com. This episode that we're going to watch now is not featuring a husband or husbands necessarily. Well, DJ Sabby is a husband, but man, it was a conversation brought to you by the GROOTMAN'S table. That's what the event was called, brought to you by JQ. And so they've invited us to host this event and host this conversation. And we had a dope time, man. We had a lot of men in the room. There was food, there was drinks, there was laughter, just incredible conversations. This chat was really about masculinity, how we see ourselves as men, how society sees us, and how we show up in the spaces that we find ourselves as men. So, man, this was such a dope one. If you were an event organizer, you were a brand, I would encourage you to watch this, be inspired, and also create more spaces like these next year because, man, at the end of it, we all agreed that we need more and more of these kind of spaces for men to pull through, man, with no pressure, with nothing else, just chill, have conversations, encourage each other, really dig deeper and see where we can challenge each other, keep each other accountable, so on and so forth, man. All of that was happening on this episode. This conversation is divided into 3 sections. We looked at the mind with Penson, Mlotshwa, and we looked at the soul with DJ Sabby, and then we looked at the body finally with Zweli, Dube, and it was just so dope, man. So stick around, watch the whole thing, leave your thoughts, let us know what you think about this thing, and let's jump straight into the first section where we are looking at the mind with Penson, Mlotshwa. Such an incredible conversation. How do we care for ourselves as men mentally? How do we show up in society, but also make sure that as we are going on a journey of becoming mentally healthy, that we're also creating or even advocating for spaces that will be healthy enough to kind of house us when we come back in a healthy state, right? So check that out now and let me know what you think about it in the comment section at the end of this. All right, peace. Well, good afternoon again, gents. My name is Black, for those I haven't had the privilege of introducing myself to. And I have the honor of running a podcast called That Husband Podcast. And today I have the privilege of being our moderator, facilitator for the conversations that we're going to be having. There's going to be other speakers who join me up front, and our conversation today will be broken up into 3 sections. The first section, we're looking at the mind with Penson, Mlotshwa, and then we're going to have the second session with DJ Sabby, and we're looking at the soul. And then lastly, Zweli, Dube, we're going to be speaking about the body. So those are going to be our 3 sessions for this afternoon, 30 minutes for all these sessions. But we have provided a QR code on your menus that you can scan where the food section is, and you can send in questions there so that you are part of the discussion that we are having up front. If you're brave enough to step to the microphone to ask a question, please feel free to come to the front and ask a question. You can interject at any point in our conversation by raising your hand, and then I'll signal you to come to the front. Just to know that, or rather for me to know that you guys are out there. I mean, I can clearly see you, but the room is a bit quiet. Can we get a hoi hoi? Let's get a hoi hoi. That's what's up, man. Just to check that you're still alive, I want signs of vitality. I will call for hoi hoi, and then you can just respond with that. Without any further ado, can you guys give me a big hoi hoi as we welcome Penson Mlotshwa to stage? Hoi hoi!
Sanmanan, guys.
It's good, man. Ukren.
No, Ukraine, how are you doing?
No, I'm good, bro. I'm good.
Did I just break this?
No.
Okay.
No, you're good, yeah. So this is meant to, be a conversation in the room.
Sure.
And so there's not any prepared set of questions really, but it's a conversation just generally around the mental state of a man.
Yeah.
Because this section is called the mind, and so we want to just engage on that.
Yeah.
Maybe let me preface it and set it up this way. So our society and our culture obviously calls for men to look after themselves mentally.
Yeah.
And there's just been a strong push, and the majority of us would agree that that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But I think where I've found that the scales are a bit imbalanced is if a lot of men would take the initiative to become healthy mentally, we don't have spaces in society that can hold men who are mentally healthy. So I think there should be a balancing of the scales, or rather that coin would be equal. That as much as men try to be mentally healthy, can our churches, can our marriages, can our workplaces be environments that could hold or house healthy men? Because I think holistically, if we look at the man's mental health, it just doesn't end with him, but his environment is very important as well. So start high level. What are your thoughts on that? Do you agree with the call from culture for us to be mentally healthy? Do you have pushback against that? What are your
I think it's just so beautiful having places like this, because a lot of this doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And when I was asked to have this chat,
Sure.
I thought it was literally going to be like 2 cameras,
Sure.
have that conversation. And when I came in and I walked in, I saw people and I'm like, and I was like, yeah. So then the anxiety starts creeping in.
Sure.
And then that sense of imposter syndrome, do I deserve to be here?
Sure.
And then that mind tricks constantly, because you're seeing that person, you're seeing this person, you're looking at how that person is dressed, and it asks the question, Wuti, are we allowed to be open, honest, and vulnerable?
Yep.
Sure. And that's the tricky part.
Yeah.
Because you want to sound smart.
Sure.
You want to sound a type of way so that people can go,
Yeah.
But at the same time, you want to be honest.
Yeah.
And you want to be vulnerable.
Sure.
And you want to say, look, thank you for having me, but I'm nervous.
Sure. Sure.
I want to guide my brothers. I want to guide GROOTMAN. I want to guide the generation coming through. But now I'm also figuring it out. So again, mental health is huge. We suffer as a machita in silence.
Yeah.
We suffer as brothers. I'm ashamed and scared to come to my brother and open up for judgment for whatever reason. Maybe he might not even have a solution for me.
Yeah.
But we live with that. We were raised ukuthi indoda ikhali.
Yeah.
And that's instilled in our marrow. Indoda ikhali.
Sure.
You find yourself in spaces where, should you become vulnerable,
Yeah.
You know, some brothers know that who you are vulnerable around, they may utilize that against you
Yeah.
in certain times.
Yeah.
Whether it is your partner, whether it is your family.
Sure.
So then you find yourself alone. But yeah, let's nip it there as we have this conversation.
Yeah.
Just to reverse the question to you,
Yeah. Yeah.
as a husband, as a grootman, your journey
Yeah.
into your mental health, because I would assume, like most of us that are blessed to have this skin tone,
Sure.
your journey of masculinity,
Yeah.
mental health might have started rough.
Yeah.
Into Daikal,
Sure.
for you to get to a space now where you can be vulnerable and open, and
Yeah.
we learn through the mistakes that you have done and guide us around.
Yeah.
So can you just briefly talk about that?
Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, I can definitely do so. So my story is just slightly different, you know. So, when I grew up, so born and raised in the East, Johannesburg, Tembisa, Kasla don't care what anybody says, right? Yeah, come on now. Sure. Forget the 2 billion scandal, but Kasla Makas, right? So yeah, come on, man. Born and raised there, and I had I think fundamentally men want to mirror other men, you know, and I had a dad who was present, you know, a man who was present in every respect, you know, so physically present, mentally, he was there, training, coaching, discipling, shaping how I see the world.
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
beautiful.
Emotionally, I tend to believe that my emotional intelligence was developed by my dad.
Sure.
You know, and so he was there, man, in a community and even in our extended family where I was the only dude with a present dad.
Sure.
You know, and so I think from earlier on, I had real conversations with him about manhood and how we're supposed to show up as men, what our role is in society as men. But year 15, that same man disappeared. Right? He literally, like day and night, left. It's literally in that way. In the morning, my dad is there, I go to school. He's the same guy who's been coaching, raising, discipling. I come back from school.
He's gone.
He's flipped. Yeah. Till today, I don't know what happened, right? And it just felt like at that point, the same guy who had coached me to become a man, when I was ready to step into the field to become a man, I looked to the sidelines and my coach wasn't there, right? And so I just had to kind of figure it out along the way.
And this is happening as a teenager.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So then I just had to figure it out. And obviously, you know, made a lot of stupid mistakes, did a lot of dumb things. But I think it's until after university where I just intentionally surrounded myself with a group of men, you know, and men who I could acquire different things from. So I saw a dude whose marriage was healthy and marriage that I could aspire to. So I just hung around him, you know. And to probably even just go into detail there, that same guy, I didn't do marriage counseling with him. We're supposed to, but instead I lived in his house, me and my fiance for a year, right? So every other day we would just be with him and his wife. And I think that really helped me quite a lot. And that's one thing I advocate for. If I am gonna be mentally healthy, I need to hang around with dudes who exhibit signs of mental health that are good, of
You know what's
good quality.
crazy, bro?
Yeah.
Like, dog, I judged your podcast so hard, dog.
Sure.
Like,
Sure.
type of energy.
Sure.
And you realize, what you're judging it from a point of you haven't done your healing.
Sure.
So you're looking at
Sure.
someone
Sure.
who's gone through it,
Yeah.
did the pain of
Yeah.
unpacking and then rebuilding and then rebuilding.
Sure.
And when who's not even in the arena,
Yeah.
not even taking accountability for certain things,
Sure.
you're looking at Lumchit and you're saying,
Sure.
what does he know?
Sure,
You know,
sure,
Chita push up simp.
Sure.
Yabona masijajana as
Sure,
I'm out.
sure,
You know, and as you're speaking of your journey,
Yeah.
you know, I'm triggered
Sure.
by my own upbringing.
Yeah.
You know, where it is that stereotypical single mom.
Yeah.
You know,
Sure.
Itaima, when he comes home, he comes kwa to beat up your lady.
Sure, man.
So you're like, oh,
Sorry, bro.
violence,
Yeah.
woe me. Then you hear your formative years and you're like, must be nice.
Sure.
And it reinsures this image that I created in my mind, you know, because I need to be a victim somehow
Sure.
to my story and
Sure.
to my narrative. So it's beautiful, bro. And I just want to say publicly that I'm actually sorry for judging you. I'm really
Sure.
sorry. I told you something.
No, I appreciate that,
Yeah,
man.
dog.
Thanks, bro.
Nah, I love, bro.
Thanks, man. And maybe if you don't mind, we can go into that. You
Yeah.
know, because I think as people who are somewhat public,
Yeah.
you know, I think part of what hampers our mental health is that somebody would say something about you online, and then you know that throws you off
Sure.
for a couple of days, possibly even a couple of months, you know, and you in your corner just dealing with that yourself. You know what I mean? And that's something that doesn't get to be on a public platform like this, but dudes don't ever get to kind of sit and speak
Yeah,
about what
yeah.
caused that, because
Yeah.
you mentioned something now about playing victim, and I wanted to kind of get into your story. Why would you imbibe a victim mentality? Why would you kind of see somebody else and one, judge them, but also judge yourself according to what you think about them? You know what I mean? So how did you get to a point where you imbibed a victim mentality?
Yeah, like I think it is when you try to justify umpeto and the mistakes that you do.
Sure,
You know,
sure.
you step out of your relationship because endlini umema akakuphakeli type
Sure,
of, you know.
sure,
So you find excuses for not going down the journey that you know you should.
Sure.
The hard walk.
Sure.
You know, so I think it's in that. Vele anginalo time.
Sure.
You know.
Sure.
So how am I going to learn how to be a lion when I was raised by a lioness
Yeah,
type
man.
of energy?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
so it becomes those little excuses. And
Sure.
even when your relationship doesn't work out, you know, vele you're meant to be doomed from the start. So
Yeah,
it's that negative talk that happens from a child, and then now you have to go into that process of, okay, no, I can't keep talking to myself this way.
Sure.
I have to
Sure.
change. I have to surround myself
Sure.
with GROOTMAN'S that actually are living and are exuding a type of energy that I need.
Sure.
You know, so it's that I'm at a point now where there's a lot of healing.
Sure.
There's a lot of openness. There's a lot of
Yeah.
not trying to be cool.
Sure.
Social media makes it tough
Does.
at times.
Does, man. Yeah.
You get like 1,000 amazing comments.
Sure.
And then you get that one.
That one. Yeah.
It's a big you know, you get that one comment, bro.
Sure.
Hey, that throws you off,
Sure.
hey.
It does. It
Yeah,
does,
you know,
man.
and you're
Yeah.
like, okay, no. And then
Sure.
so I'm learning because I'm very, very new into
That's
the
good, man.
space.
Yeah,
Whereas
sure.
I think a lot of the brothers have gone through it,
Sure.
and they've forgotten things that I'm still yet to learn. You know, so I'm trying to balance that part of just being authentically me, understanding that not everybody's gonna dig me. You know,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
everybody's cup
yeah,
of tea.
yeah.
You know, and that's okay.
It's fine, bro.
You know,
Yeah.
as long as I can be me, honestly me, not try and put on little hats or makeup or, you know, put on, let me be me and show up as me.
Yeah.
And let the chips fall where they may.
That's good, bro.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, man, like the reason why one of those comments sting more than the good comments is because of the narratives that we've already imbibed about ourselves, you know. And we've let those narratives live rent free in our minds. You know, so when a negative comment comes, the reason why I believe it takes residence in our minds, in our hearts, it's because it finds company. That's
Yeah,
there already.
of course,
Right?
of
Things that
course.
you've already said about yourself. So when somebody else online says something negative, your mind automatically says, well, it's confirming what I already believe about myself. You know what I mean? You mentioned that you're on a journey of healing. So what are some practical steps that you've taken to try and get to the point that you're at now? Yeah.
So as a journey, it starts off when everything crumbles. You
Sure.
know, when you lose everything on
Sure.
a personal level.
Sure.
You know, you start realizing it's okay, no, this is now my superhero moment.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
upolo usungishayela upolo, now I need to go and train.
Sure.
Type of thing.
Sure.
And more than anything, you need to go train your mind.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to like, you know, let me just start recording myself. Let me
Sure.
vlog. Some people like to journal. You know, I'm just going to take my phone. Hey guys, this is me.
Sure.
Flopile namhlanje.
Sure.
Can someone just guide me on how to walk around in the comments?
Sure.
And I think with that 2-3 years ago, then it started picking up a bit of steam. You know, where I was able to be open and honest and get the response where people are saying,
Yeah.
oh, now you're flopper, like how
Yeah, man.
now I can relate now,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
because
sure.
sometimes you feel like you're the only gent that's actually going through something. You know, you feel like, hey, no, let's interzenzi for like, yeah, it's just me. And then you start getting that. And it wasn't like a whole misery loves company type of energy, but it was more of brothers saying, no, I made that mistake.
Yeah.
Try and go left, right, try take this, try and adjust this. And I was like, oh, we can create positive online spaces. It's not just a toxic cesspool where we're like, I don't like your hat.
Sure,
I don't like your, we can actually create communities, because again, we live in isolated patches, you living by yourself in your little flat nyana, and sometimes that takes a toll mentally. So with me and my journey is, as much as I have a great support structure, very loving partner, but it's also understanding which I need a machita around me to also guide me, to also walk with me as I'm healing. And I still make mistakes, plenty of them, but at least now I know it's human. And as long as I keep trying to do better,
that's good.
That's my journey, bro.
That's dope, man. There's a question that came in that asks how many men in this room are in therapy, and I wanted to probably pose it to you and ask, do you think therapy is good for men? Do you think there's other alternative ways for us to look after?
Can I be controversial?
Sure.
Okay. So I don't know.
I think that's why they booked you.
So I'm a psychology graduate. I worked as a therapist. I did a lot of family therapy.
Stop, man.
And the challenge with therapy, or the therapists, not all, I just want to be very clear, a lot of them are just regurgitating what they read off Carl Jung or Freud. There's a cultural aspect that we need to understand. If we're umZulu ukhulele eNewcastle emadadeni, the person that you are speaking to has to understand the cultural nuance of how you view things.
Come on.
Mina leaving high school, the way that I view gender, the way that I viewed sexuality, the way that I view race is chalk and cheese compared to now. And that's due to my cultural upbringing. So when I started therapy in my second year at varsity.
For yourself?
For myself. I was just clashing with the therapists. I felt like white females, I'd say certain things, ukuthi ngithanda lengane khona nenye ngithandayo khona nomunye ngifuna ukubathanda boy 3. And you look at her eyes and she goes, I go back to Newcastle, I say this to a GROOTMAN, they're like, yeah, wenza kahle. So now you start realizing, wait a minute, I don't know if they are, they watch me go off the cliff, because that's how they were also raised. But at the same time, I don't know if the therapy that I'm getting here is good for me understanding my actual circumstance. So I'm never negative to therapy. I'm saying try and find someone who understands when. It could be your pastor, it could be Itaima down the road, but someone who understands the cultural nuance of how you were raised, the environment that you're in, and then through that, using the tools that you have, then to guide you. And that's how I see the value of therapy.
That's dope, man.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that, bro.
But I've tried it, bro.
How many years?
I've tried, it's been 4 different therapists. I haven't had a year. It's probably been, again, like you'll do like 12 sessions. And then you'll be like, nah, I'm good. And you do another 12 sessions, you're like, nah, I'm good. And now I'm like, okay, I need to. So I've tried it. And for me, unfortunately, I have found more guidance in a GROOTMAN around me. I've got a lot of great older brothers. I've got a lot of amazing timers around me that when I go and seek counsel, they sit, they listen, and they guide.
That's dope, man.
Those are my therapists,
That's fire, man. No, that's good.
And
I think we could give a round of applause for that. Yeah, sure.
And you? And you?
Yeah. So for me, man, it's been community that has truly been helpful. So I surround myself again with a group of men from different races, different ages. So just trying to get counsel and wisdom from guys who've been in different life situations. So guys who are older than me, guys who are my peers, but also younger guys. There's an author, I think his name is John Alderich, if I'm not mistaken. But he writes this book about how the different stages of a boy's life and the kind of mentors, leaders, mirrors that he needs at different stages. So when he's a boy, he needs his father, to be there, to guide him, to show him what's right and wrong, discipline essentially, and coaching. But when he gets into his teenage years, which he calls the cowboy stage, he needs a guy who's gonna help him kind of exercise his strength, because he's realizing that his arms are getting bigger, right, than females around him, but his brain is not developed enough to know that he can't punch a wall, right, and survive. So he needs somebody around him to say, yo, you have strength, maybe let's take an axe and go chop some trees instead of punching walls or punching people.
Sure.
And then when you get into your young adult stage, he describes that as the warrior stage. And that's when you politically conscious, religiously conscious, and you always want to have a cause that you live for. And then in your 30s, he calls that the king stage. And then after that, he calls that the sage stage. But he says at every stage, sages need to look after kings. Kings need to look after warriors. Warriors need to look after cowboys. And cowboys need to look after boys. And if we can have a society like that where men are constantly mirroring themselves, then there's constant guidance throughout their journey. And that's what I've tried to imbibe for my life. Just try and get guys. So I'm in my king stage now. I've been married for 12 years.
Beautiful.
Building a family,
Well
looking after my queen. But I need a sage, man. I need a sage to walk with me and remind me, when things are getting
While
hot.
you're also talking to the warriors.
While I have warriors under me that I'm also guiding.
Can I just jump in?
Yeah. That's still good.
How crazy is it when you look at that band of gents in their 20s?
Yeah.
And the current landscape.
Yeah.
How tough is it for them?
Yeah, it is tough. And it goes back to how I opened up my statement. We can't keep calling guys to, do things that we're speaking about now to be mentally healthy.
Sure.
But then we're not providing environments to house them when they come back. Right? So if our relationships are still toxic, if our marriages are toxic, if our churches are toxic, if the work environment is toxic, then you're just actually exacerbating the thing. A guy who's trying to work hard and heal himself and get to a better place. And now he has to go back to spaces that are not ordered for him to live in a healthy way, So I think there has to be a big call to our female counterparts, to leaders who are in churches to create those
is it not this thing of
environments,
us looking like we've got it all figured out?
What do you mean?
So I'm very privileged in the sense of a lot of younger gents.
Sure.
Like they asking questions, so how do I do this? How do I do that?
Yeah.
One of it is because I put my mistakes out there.
Sure.
And again, it's not for the faint-hearted, but that's what I do.
Sure.
And they can gravitate to that.
Yeah.
One of the challenges that I've always had is when I go and I see a grootman and they look like they've got it all figured out.
Sure.
Or like, you've never been cheated on?
Yeah.
When I tell guys, you've never lost a fight.
Sure.
You've got like $1 million in the bank account all the time.
Yeah.
You don't like what it's like being broke. And so when we post these worlds that we have of us having everything figured out, it makes it so much tougher for the warriors who are scared to get into battle. Like you have a whole generation that's scared to get into relationships. They're scared to get married. They're scared to get kids. They're scared to create a family. Because they've been hurt and burnt. And we hear guys like Black who've been beautifully married for 12 years. And he's got a beautiful family. And oh my gosh, so well spoken. I mean, I'll never get there. Mina njengamanje nalo matric wami nje ngawufeyila nga. Yabona? So I think it is that. And how do we go about saying to the kings, to the sages, please be authentic so that we can help the warriors coming up?
Yeah, I think there should be a balance, man. We still need heroes. I think society still needs heroes, but I think to what you're saying, we need to know that heroes do take their capes off.
Sure.
Superman sometimes does.
Has to be Clark Kent.
Yeah, it has to be Clark Kent sometimes. But we can't now call Clark Kent to be as transparent as he can be at the sake of killing Superman.
Oh, yeah.
Because we still need a society that's going to be aspirational. As we sit here as men, and somebody actually asked that we define that word. But from my own thinking of what a grootman is somebody who's, seen life, has achieved, can guide, you know. And so I think we need symbols of hope. But to your point, which I agree with, those symbols of hope still need to show us. Their armor that's chipped, their armors, right? That's a bit broken and some of their flaws. But I think we need to do it in ways that are healthy. Again, speaking about our mindset, right? Because I think sometimes, and especially in the culture that we live in, we fail to distinguish between when your wound is still a wound,
Yeah.
right? Before it becomes a scab, or before
Because
it
we
becomes a
pretend.
scar.
We're
Right?
like, no, it's just a little scratch. No,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Is it Makusho in
Sure.
Romeo and Juliet? You know, just a mere scratch.
Yeah. Sure.
Meanwhile, you're bleeding, bro.
Yeah.
It's bad.
So what I'm saying with that is, I don't think that we should show our wounds in public before they become scars, right?
Oh,
So I think if you wounded now, you've just been cheated on. I don't think it's healthy for you and healthy for me as an onlooker for you to bleed on me while you haven't processed what that cheating has done to you. You know, because if somebody
is it something for your circle?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think
because you know how much cheater don't even chat about that.
Yeah.
You know,
I know.
He'll catch it and like he'll go cry in the shower, come out,
Yeah.
act tough. My phone.
Sure.
You know? Yeah.
And that's why I would encourage that guys do find those circles so that you can be as transparent while your wound is becoming a scar. Because once your wound is a scar, you've processed what that cheating did to you. Right?
Sure.
So if you think particularly of cheating, it's not just somebody breaking your trust with them, but they've broken your trust with yourself.
Yeah.
Because then you think to yourself, what
Yes,
kind of man
doubt,
am
yeah,
I?
yeah.
That a woman would cheat on me.
Yeah.
You know, what have I? Exactly. Right? Yeah. So there still needs to be a process of you kind of getting back to yourself and formulating trust with yourself.
Yeah.
So I've just been cautious that we don't now take our wounds and bleed on kings and bleed on warriors and bleed on cowboys before we can figure out what this thing has done to us. You know what I
How do
mean?
we create that circle, bro?
Yeah.
You know, how do we create? Because again, some of us are lucky that we've got family members that you know, and some guys don't. Some are lucky that we've got friends that we grew up with. You know that we can't even be fake around.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, especially moving to a Joburg, moving to a foreign space, you come from Vaba, and now you're here, you're working at Ernst & Young, whatever the case may be. How do you create that circle where you can be vulnerable enough where you can say, April, it's been 2 months, I haven't paid rent, I'm about to get kicked out, I don't know how to go. How do we create that?
I think let's rope in the audience here.
Oh, sorry.
They're asking. So if there's gents who want to help with that particularly, how do we rope in other men? How do we create a community around us so that we can be as transparent as our minds demand and require of us? So you had your hand up, brother. You want to come to the mic and speak to the mic? Okay, but you can come to the mic. Yeah, it's cool. And what is coming to the mic? Just here's a question for you, gents. What do we define as a grootman? So you can put it on that app. What do you define as a grootman?
Sure, buddy.
Yeah.
It's Phil here. I wanted to ask, and I have 2 questions.
Sure.
I wanted to interrupt in between of the conversation.
Yeah.
So the first question is, and I'm throwing it to the room, to Amakhotmani.
Sure.
When do we make it a safe space and normal for a man to cry without having to feel like a power is taken away from them and they feel weak?
Sure.
First question. Second question, for someone that come from a background of a father that was abusive, having to beat up the mom, and as a child you need to watch, as a boy child you need to watch and everything like that. When as Amakhotmani we call each other out, you see videos trending. We are in a GPV crisis now. We see video trending. You see a boyfriend hitting a girlfriend and everything like that, and it looks normal to people.
Sure.
Like, oh, okay, and everything like that. How do we stop that as Amakhotmani? When do we start calling each other and making sure that we take accountability? Even if it's your brother, it's your father, whoever it is, take accountability. Third question, sorry. Last question, I hope you do that. Last question is, I saw in one of the comments, someone spoke about the testosterone assessment. We see our sisters and mothers with infertilities. You get a man infertile, they don't visit the doctor and everything like that, and they blame it in the woman. How do we have the conversations among that to say, oh, okay, you're not getting a child, you want a child, go get tested, go get checked, see your health and be diagnosed with the infertility and everything like that. I'm done. Thank you so much.
It's cool, man. Appreciate that, brother.
I've
Can we?
got 4 sons, bro.
You must tell us how you did it, bro.
So banifuna tea. Calling it daisayo.
Can we park that last question for the third session because we're gonna talk about the body then? Stop. So maybe the first 2.
So when I started crying, I used
Yeah.
to cry in the shower, like legit.
Yeah.
I think no one can hear you,
Yeah, sure.
no one can see your tears. I think the person put me to man's.
Sure.
That was my goish. Ungena nje shower na was izeve. Yashisa yabani.
Sure.
Just go in full clothes sitting down.
Yeah.
It's such a tricky question, like because you're so right in saying which we still need heroes.
Sure.
You know,
Sure.
because there's a lot of bad men as well that we also need to like, oh, fuck you, you know.
Yeah,
And if you're showing too much,
Yeah.
you know, some people can see that and view it as a weakness to a point where they start taking advantage of.
Sure.
You know, so it's such a fine line. I mean, I say to my kids, you need to earn being vulnerable.
Sure.
You need to earn in a time like this where a lot of society, as you're alluding to the GBV, is still seeing us in the sense that we need to step up as a machita. Because you can't just say, hey, let me intervene there. So shower away now.
Yeah. Sure.
Sure. So you also need to present something. You know, so you almost have to earn being vulnerable in certain spaces
good, bro.
outside of your circle. Your circle, that's a separate discussion. You know, so I know, for example, when I got my nails painted, you know, there was a stigma around that. You know, there's a huge stigma, and guys, but it's also not easy for me to my face.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah,
So now they have to
Think twice.
so if you get what I'm talking about, you know, so they'll say it in the comments about your nail when you're showering, but now they must say it to your face, bro.
Sure. Sure.
You know, but it's because you've earned it, you know.
Sure.
So as much as outside, again, we're not talking about your circle, because to my circle, me, I'll cry at a diamond head, you know, like, so outside, I feel like we
Why
need to
do you
create
feel the
these-
need to cry outside of your circle?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. That's why I'm saying if I do, I've earned the right to.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how do you earn that right?
It is to a point where I've created a space where you know who I am.
Okay.
I'm sure of my masculinity.
Sure.
Akekho zongitesta, akekho zo- And then once you realize he knows who he is, and he knows every shade of who he is,
Sure.
and he understands the spectrum of masculinity within himself, including the point where I can be vulnerable enough to cry.
That's good.
That's my version of
That's
it.
good, man. Yeah, no, that's good. Brother, you wanted to step up to the mic and ask something.
What I wanted to do was to answer the question that you had earlier and tied in with his, right? So when we're saying we need to create platforms, that sort of adds pressure because one person needs to get up and start that that platform. But what we're not understanding is that the platform is already there.
Sure.
You start with your friends, you start with your brothers.
Yes.
And the unfortunate part is that when it comes to crying, you will have to be the first one amongst us.
Yeah,
And then we see ukuthi okay.
But
it's doable. Sizokuhleka, but mangifika endlini, I'm like, so it's safe for me to cry in front of Untang.
Sure.
A platform, when we say creating platforms, it can take us 10 years to create a platform.
Got you.
But in the midst of that, our fellow brothers are struggling.
That's why I advocate a lot, even in our conversation, that you create a circle, that you do so. But even in this interaction now, you know, we made a joke about uzokhala sikleke, fanele sikleke. Even that, I'm like, that is very weighty. And I think we should unpack that. And I'm asking you now, why is it okay ukuthi? Because you for me that's contradictory, because uzongihleka, but you said after I see you cry, it's gonna somehow inspire me to come back and cry again. But I'm like, if iklekiwe, I'm not coming back here. I'm not doing here, Joe.
So it's not for everyone, right?
What do you mean it's not for everyone? Okay.
As what I've realized is the first one that laughs at you, you touch something on them, so they must give.
Okay.
The first one that's gonna laugh at you.
Okay.
Sure.
You touch the nerve. And instead of them crying with you at that time, they mask and laugh. And that is why I'm saying later on when I get home, I'm like, it's safe. I can cry in front of them. I might not cry in front of everyone, but I already know there's one person.
Do you know, I look at it differently with the laughing. That I could relate, but from a different point. Because I feel like there's still an expectation as a machita in society to be the protector.
Yeah.
And part of us is, sure. Part of us is uqinsan. You know, because if we do become hyper feminized, if for me to just say it like that, and then when we do get the monsters that are doing what they're doing, it becomes that much tougher for us to then be able to step up. Part of it, and yes, the laugh is painful, but I feel like in your circle, it needs to be, it's like ukwarana sakul. You know, it's bad, bro. It's bad. But it's meant to toughen you up. You know, it's meant to be that copper stamp or that conditioning at rugby practice, so that when the gremlins are really there, we actually know exactly what to do. That's my view of how Uput was talking about Uglachan.
Yeah, that's good, man. I would double tap on that and say our definitions of masculinity need to change, because as much as we advocate for men to cry, I think we're not ready for men who cry.
Nah, we're not.
Because we haven't opened up the definition of what a man is. I think we've just truncated it to provision, and dare we even go to protection. But I think we've just truncated it to provision. And so if men are only seen as providers, you don't want somebody who's supposed to hunt for you to appear weak,
of course,
and cry. Right? Yeah. And so I'm like, we need to broaden our definition of what a man is before we call for men to stand in public and cry, or even cry in inner circles. Because I think umhleko comes as a result of what I believe a man is supposed to be. You appearing weak now. You're supposed to be a hunter.
Yeah.
So what? Yeah. You know what I So I think we need to expand that definition, man, and not just, especially for us who live in Johannesburg, right? Yeah. It's the city of gold. We came here to hustle, and we would define ourselves as men based on how large our pockets are or how small they are.
I don't know how we're doing in terms of time, but I'm gonna go extreme.
Sure.
If I may. 4 out of 5?
Sure.
Men, or 4 out of 5 people are men that commit.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure if I can say, but let's just keep it like that. That's in themselves.
Yeah.
In South Africa.
Yeah.
If you unpack the stats even more, it is middle-aged men, middle-aged in the sense of 30 to that 50 band.
Yeah.
A lot of them are married with families.
Yeah.
So clearly, there's a real issue.
Sure.
As much as there's an issue with our sisters being abused, as much as there's real issues there, what are we doing at the fact that 4 out of every 5 of people that take their lives are men? And they are men who are appearing to have it together.
Sure.
Husbands.
Sure.
We saw it with DJ Titch. Is it Twitch? What's
Twitch,
we've seen many examples of our brothers here at home.
Sure.
And it's painful. I've lost 4 friends. Married husbands with kids, looking like they've got it together. How do we help that? How do we bring awareness to that?
Yeah. So for me, man, I would circle back to that, man. Your immediate circle, and have a distinction, which we're probably going to speak to DJ Sabby about later, but have a distinction between vulnerability and transparency. I think we, as a culture, have called men to be vulnerable, but vulnerability in itself is a high call. In fact, when you think about the origins of the word vulnerability, it literally means woundability, or the ability to be wounded. And if you are a man, vulnerability again denotes two pictures. One is from a military perspective. If a man hears vulnerability, or a general of an army hears vulnerability, he calls all the troops to close that vulnerability because he knows that's where the enemy is going to attack, right? Yeah. Or when you think of having a wound, you would want a qualified doctor to handle that wound and not anybody else who's unqualified.
Because I'm vulnerable there.
Right? And so if we're going to call for men to be vulnerable, we need to understand what the high calling is, right? And I'm arguing that there aren't any spaces, in fact, whether it's at work, it's in our churches, whether it's in our friendship circles, where vulnerability can be held with the kind of weightiness or the kind of gravity it demands, right? I would argue, you might push back, that you have to foster that thing with somebody that you have forged a lifelong covenantal commitment with. And you guys have dedicated yourselves together to say, regardless what happens, I am with you, you are with me. I think it's only in that space that true vulnerability can exist. But I advocate that men must have the highest form of transparency.
Okay.
And transparency, if I could probably use an illustration to differentiate the two. So if we in a space like this, transparency is saying the windows are open, the door is open, you can stand outside and look at the contents within here, but you're not allowed to come in and touch and move things. That's transparency. I can show you all of who I am, and I think I should do that to my friends. I should do that online or any other space that I've created. But vulnerability is saying, do not stand outside, but come in, and you have permission to move around the furniture. So the contents of my soul and the contents of my mind, I am giving you carte blanche access and permission to move those things, right? And I can't trust anybody with that because that's who I fundamentally am. I'm asking you to change me at an identity level. And therefore, that's why I'm saying I cannot even advocate for guys who haven't had their scars formed to go out into public and expose your wounds before they become scars, because society, social media, etc., is not conducive enough to hold. Right? Again, circles, man.
I know therapy. No, man, I'm listening to what you're saying because I want to get to that point where I can be transparent.
Sure.
That's a 4-9 password.
Sure.
You know, but at the same time, want to get to a point with my partner, with my brother, where I can actually say, this is the actual bleeding point and I'm fully vulnerable.
Sure.
Please, can you help me?
Sure. Maybe let's wrap it up there for the sake of time. Gents, the QR code is still open. Please send in your questions and we'll pick them up in the second session. But we're going to have starters now. Please use this time to kind of digest some of the things that we said. We don't want to just be here and be voices, but we've been invited to have conversations around our tables. So let's engage further on with what we spoke about now, and then we'll come back after we have our starters. Let's give it up for
Thank
Penson
you so much, guys.
and how he's been helpful here.
Nice.
I hope you enjoyed that first section where we spoke about the mind. Now this is section number 2 where we're looking at the soul with DJ Sabby. Man, the soul is such a complex thing. When we speak about the soul, we're speaking about a man's will, speaking about a man's thoughts, his desires, his emotions, and how do all of those things actually come together? What formulates them? And now once they formulated, how can a man untangle some of these things so that he can show up in ways that are healthy? When he's doing some deep work on himself, how does he then show up for his family? If he has one, how does he show up for the spaces that require him to be the kind of man that will be reliable, that will be accountable, a man that's needed for that moment? We unpack all of that. DJ Sabby was just so incredible. So stick around, watch that section. Again, please do leave your comments. We'd love to engage with you. And then I'll see you in the third section of this conversation. All right. Cool, bro. I was just wanting to get your comments on how the conversation has been so far, man.
It's been amazing. You know, whenever these conversations happen or I'm invited to such spaces, for me, it's always great to see the men actually come through.
Sure.
Because when the posters and the flyers and information and the awareness goes out, that there's going to be a session where gents come through and let's have these conversations. In some spaces, dudes usually don't come out.
Sure.
But to see it happen, like I was telling you that side, is that there's a difference when I see the ones that attend the Kasi.
Sure.
The last one I attend in Makaya, and in the North, what I tend to see in the North is that people come to watch.
Sure.
People don't come to talk.
Sure.
Some people come to catch up. And people tend to say to people they know.
Sure.
Whenever I come to these things. So let's see how everything plays out. But for me, it's quite dope. More and more people came through, and what's great, it's a different age groups. I was surprised I'm invited to a GROOTMAN table. I'm only 35.
Come on, bro.
I'm like, hey, how did I get here, man? It's like in families now, makhulunga ngomsebenzi ekhaya kuthiwa kuzohlatshwa what. Ngithi ngifike kanjani la? when did I come to the point where we decide which car was going to be bought? Usually I tang on internet say
sure. We either have a crisis and we're desperate, so that's why we're calling anyone a grootman, or we just acknowledge the stuff you've done and how you show up. And maybe there's a lot of other good things that you can share with us today, man,
Definitely.
So you just mentioned now, for those who are wondering what the session is, so the first session we spoke about the mind with Penson, and now we're speaking about the soul, and that has to do with our thoughts, our feelings, the will. So that's really what we're going to be chatting about. But let me start here. You mentioned that sessions like these are different in different contexts. Like I see they're different from what happens in the North. And you mentioned a couple of traits that kind of mark these men's sessions in the North. And that was very intriguing for me, because I think that will kind of reveal what our souls look like and how we show up in spaces like these, and even in conversations with other men. What is the difference?
It's one of those questions where it's truly understanding whether you like yourself naked or not. I think that's the beginning point, right?
Say that again, bro.
If you're not in love with who you see when you're naked, then there's something you need to work on. And I think that's what the soul is.
Sure.
It's when you strip out the titles and how society views you.
Yeah.
You as a person, Uma, who are you?
Sure.
Are you happy with how you see yourself outside of how people label you to be?
Sure.
It's a conversation. Also, one thing I've noticed, Ekas, is that guys come through to these spaces looking for help.
Yeah.
Like, sure. You know what I mean? When you come to the North, the guy's going to be covered up in a Givenchy shirt. You know what I mean?
Sure.
To hear how another person got the scar, and when they get home, they will fix their own scar. But they're not going to tell you how they got their own scar. And I think it starts right there, at a point where we truly understand that how we fail and why we fail and what led to us getting the scars that we now have is truly how we're going to change the narrative as to how we see each other as men. Living in a time now where more and more of us as gens, we're getting to a point where we're just doing our own thing in our own way, because we're also trying to figure out this life thing. I love how he articulated it when he said, we are trying to figure out what this whole thing of leading families and being a man and leading companies and just changing the outlook of what a man looks like. I remember ngekhaya once upon a time ngomsebenzi. Ngathi ngizobanyusela iBP nje. I went home ngifake nail polish emnyama. Mase kuhlatshwa inkomo, one of umalume athi, "Kanti nibhe mane egoli." Yini leniyenza egoli? Sewufika nezipho ezimnyama mshana. Kwenzakalani? And I was like, it's to show them just because I paint my nails or nama tattoo doesn't take away from me being indoor. It doesn't take away from the masculinity that I have. You know what I mean? And then you realize the worlds are different. Emakhaya and Joburg, how we talk and how we engage in several subject matters, it's way different, And I guess being a radio guy, you always find a way to be the guy in between.
Sure.
Bringing the different worlds and bringing a totally different picture that some people are not even aware of.
Sure. That's good, man. I think the note you made about environment is such a good one. Because constantly the environment around us sends messages and tells us narratives about who we are and who we are becoming. So when you think of Emakaya, for example, and you have to provide protection. You might have to create a weapon. You might have to build a fence yourself. To create that. But when you come to our environment here in the North, or the larger Gauteng, even that natural wiring to be a man, to protect and to provide that kind of thing is docile. It's killed in you, in fact, because now you have to just pay for protection. You pay for ADT, you pay, for a gated community, and there's nothing wrong with the soft life. But the thing that I'm leading to is how our environment goes against our natural wiring, So if I'm Makaya, I can provide physical protection with my own hands. But in the North, I have to, again, determine with the size of my pockets how much protection or level of protection I can provide for my family. What do you think that does to the soul of a man?
When we move to the North, we tend to eliminate the window for conversation.
Sure.
Like you barely don't know your neighbors. You think of the complexes people reside in.
Unless you live in the East Rand. Everybody who lives in the East Rand knows their neighbor.
Like,
it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. If you're in the East Rand people tend to know their neighbors.
Yeah.
We have a problem in the North.
Mina ngasemandeni like
Sure.
ngizela ngetoho.
Yeah.
And inkosi yangihlanganisela ngathola umhlaba, yabo.
Sure.
But I think, man, I don't know what happens. We get to the city now.
Yeah.
And we tend to forget izinto esifunde emakhaya. Like mina ngikhulele emakhaya ehlebe ne.
Yeah.
Emahlabathini. So you might see the steeds now and you think angilusanga, but ngelusa imbuzi. That's all umkhulu could afford.
Sure.
Inkomethi zazadayiswa. But with ukulusa, you learn the importance of a community.
Yeah.
Sihlangana ngekhathi ethize neinsizwa siyolusa imbuzi zethu sizibeke next to endaweni ethize.
Sure.
And then silala ibhola khona kwazi ukushaya induku so uzokushaya uzofundela kuwe athi uyakufundisa.
Sure.
But there's a sense of community where we all are aware of a certain routine.
Yeah.
So nothing will tend to happen in our isigodi. Isigodi means the village.
Yeah.
Without us knowing. So in our time as Khulele Makhaya, that sense of community and awareness with one another brought us closer. That should anyone else try to infiltrate that space, uzozibika kithi sonke ngaphambi kokuthenza into ethize.
Sure.
Even noma ufuna ukuthenga piece of land from la isikhona uzokhuluma vele nenkosi ethize bamnika umhlaba. But that sense of community brought us a little bit closer. But what happens when we move out to the north or we come to the city?
Yeah.
You barely know your neighbor. Uyafika nje uthenga iflat, if uthenga iflat, or you pay rent, you move in, and it becomes one of those situations where you stay there. Maybe until you bump into a guy 3-4 times and you introduce yourself.
Yeah.
But I remember when we bought a house in Joburg, me and the wife, we went to be my neighbor. It was like a foreign thing.
Sure.
It's like, siyangongoza siphethe imbali. Sizosibika ukuthi, hey, we namjalis, we just moved in a number.
Sure.
You know, it's a foreign concept. But those who understand what we're trying to build when we come into a space, and that's what we tend to forget as men and as people, is that when you get into a new space, you can change the aura in that space
100%.
by how you introduce yourself.
Yeah.
And that comes with the soul. It's your teachings. I'm not going to change who I am to make you happy. And that's the thing that comes with time and age, is that you stop doing things to make people happy.
Sure.
Because it hurts you the most. Why did I actually laugh at that nigga's joke? It wasn't funny.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Why did I eventually give in to his ideas? Because probably at that time, his aura was more dominant than yours.
Yeah.
But the older you get, it's like, whatever, dog. Sharp, do your thing, I'll do mine. Right? You learn how to stand your ground. But it brings me to the point is that as a man, it comes with age and with time, is that you start believing more in your own thinking and your own thoughts and not having to succumb to certain viewpoints just because it comes from an older person or an elder person or a younger person. It just makes sense to who you are as a person.
That's good, man.
So it's also sticking to your own guns and sticking to your own beliefs. And that's just who I am at this point, man. Like it's understanding that when I get into any space, I will always be myself first.
Sure.
And I'll always be open to unlearning if what I've always believed in tends to feel like it's not probably the right way of doing things. I'm open to unlearning.
Sure.
That's another thing. But how I'll introduce myself at first is me.
That's good, bro. And I think that's a proactive way of caring for your soul. But clearly there is a level at which you are self-aware. And the makeup of your soul. You know, I did speak with Penson in our first session about the difference between vulnerability and transparency. And man, shout outs to you now for just being as transparent as you've been. But exposing your soul, you know, that requires a lot of work for yourself before you can trust another person, your neighbors, your friends, people at work, with that very important part of who you are. What led you to start doing that work for yourself? And what are some practical things that you have now that you keep using to nourish the work of looking after your soul?
I would say more of my nurturing with my soul comes from Iolet, you know?
Sure.
So let me paint a picture for you of my upbringing. The upbringing, every holiday, okay, ubaba ukhulele uzalelwe eDlewe emahlabathini.
Sure.
Rural, proper rural. Umama usempangeni.
Sure.
Right? So they meet in Ladysmith at some point in 1987. Dad says the right things. Mom says, hey, this boy from KZN, come on with it. And then I guess they make the order sometime in 1989. Then I land in 1990.
Sure.
And for 5 years of my life, I think I was able to experience what it's like to have a mama and a baba endlini.
Yeah.
And it hits you when you get older, the learnings that come with those formative years. Then dad gets a job offer to move back. No, it wasn't a job offer. Umkhulu retires now Sabby. My dad, being the older man, has to now move back Emandeni to take care of the house.
Sure.
Now that's when you start learning about legacy. Because Umkhulu, utshalile Emandeni, le nto akayitshalile loya muzi, it shouldn't die.
Yeah.
It shouldn't remain empty. So the elder son is to take over the house. So what does he do? He brings his family with him. Now, when you reflect on all these things, you realize, legacy. Dang, I'm a dad. I'm a boy child myself. That means at some point along the way, my dad is going to pass on a certain responsibility to me.
Sure.
Okay, this is just you now reflecting as a younger man or in your teenage years when your brain starts asking questions. Then 1997, I don't know what dad does, but they break up with my mom.
Sure.
Right? I say I don't know what dad does, but I think we all did. I think they say enjoy his chef or somewhere else.
Sure.
They say, then you learn about infidelity.
Sure.
Right? Now, when you reflect, you're like, that whole world of having two parents together in the house, it's separated.
Sure.
Now your mom moves into a totally different setup in Jondolo, which it was another side of Emandeni.
Sure.
My dad now has to leave this very same house that he was brought to Emandeni to take care of and has to go to Olundi. Now he's a man who only comes in a weekend. I'm a stranger.
Sheesh, bro.
Now I'm exposed to different viewpoints and different ideologies as to how other men think.
Sheesh,
it changes your entire thinking of a young man. Now, when I look at the kind of man that I am right now, it's in those formative years usually where I go to and I'm like, if things would have played out differently, how would I have been as a kid?
Sure.
And when you make a decision at that point in time, is that when I have children, I never want them to experience any of that.
Yeah.
I put it out to the universe, and I hope things will work out like that.
Yeah.
But the more you grow, you realize that your soul is also shaped from that. And when you get to the years of you being a teenager, now you need male figures in your life. Like, most of them were not your ideal role models. You know what I mean? Sometimes, because when I was introduced to radio, I started DJing at the age of 14.
Sure.
It changes your viewpoint. What does it mean to be a man? You praise something on a Sunday, chigi, something else at night, and you're praying on the very same young girls that you're saying we must take care of. So it changes. Now you're seeing all these men around your neighborhood. You're hearing stories about Utishoti is a high school that is picking up little girls,
Sure.
and because he's got the coolest car. He's a principal. He tends to earn a little bit more money.
Sure.
I'm a cheater that Abambi more than north and bringing them back to Ekasi. They're the ones that kind of give you an access viewpoint to what other cars are outside besides a Kentucky and a Polo and a Velocity, all the same cars that we saw in the hood.
Yeah.
So your reference to what a good man is, you're like, what does it mean to be a good man? Because all the men that I've seen around me, they really don't tick the box.
Sure, man.
Then you start watching TV, listening to the radio, you draw inspiration from all these other men that are out there.
Yeah.
Then you meet them, and you're like, dang, dog. You know when you're disappointed by your role models?
Yeah.
It F's you up in your 20s.
Yeah.
Because you're like, bro, you the guy who took me out of the craziest moments in my life. I watched all your shows, bought all your music.
Sure, man.
You are my reference to what a man is. Then I get to meet you in this industry. Then I realize you're just like the pastors when I was young.
It's crazy, man.
But then you come to realize that a man is a man and every man has his own flaws and every man fights their own demons.
Sure.
But you now need to see from all the qualities of all these men you've met along the way, which man has a character that spoke to the kind of man that you want to become one day. And I say that because most of us, it's like when you start out on radio, before you find your voice, you try to sound like your role models.
Yeah.
You do things like this, like them. Then one day you have a moment where you're yourself,
Yeah.
and the listeners love it. And you're like, hey, I need to do more of that. They love me.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of man that you truly become when you finally get into the season where you want to build the kind of man that you want to become by taking from all the other men that you've been exposed to.
Sure.
And I think that's where I'm at right now. Like, I know what kind of man I do not want to become because for the past 25 years, I've pretty much raised myself.
Yeah, man. Sheesh, bro. Thanks for that, man. And that was just such an in-depth perspective view into your life and how your soul has been shaped. Gents, just to remind you that the mic is open. If you want to come to the front, throw questions, have comments, it would be dope for you to do so. When we were chatting now during the break, without getting too much into details, but you mentioned the car ride that you had with your son, and just the world view that he has and the experiences that he has are worlds apart from how you grew up, and just this elaborate explanation of your upbringing that you just gave us now. When you look at your son, man, and where he is now, and obviously shaped by you, what does that do to your soul?
I'll make an example to you right now.
Yeah.
If I may ask, Machita, how many of you have ever had your father tell you they're proud of you? How many of you, your dad has never told you they're proud of you? How many of you have never heard your dad say they love you? How many of you have been hugged by your dad? How many of you had assignments at school, your dad actually came to see you execute that assignment?
Oh.
How many of you were picked up by your dads at school? You see, we all have different experiences when it comes to this whole fatherhood thing.
Sure.
And thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And that exercise for me is just goes to show is that we all come from different holes.
Yeah.
Some of us are neighbors, but we have different experiences. There's one kid once came over. I love sharing stories because I learn from stories, and it'll bring me to the story that you just shared. This kid comes over because my kid goes to a certain school. You think everything is rosy, right?
Sure.
So he joins us. We're sitting, siadla, and this kid has a simple question. It's like, so you guys do this every night?
Sure.
Y'all eat like this every night?
Wow.
Like as a family on the table?
Yeah.
Because he usually sits in front of his TV and watches watches TV and eats.
Sure.
And then it hit me when he was asking that, and I also never had that.
Yeah.
How many of us who had to wait for generations, you knew it was time to eat?
Yeah.
It was 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
There was no set time to say, we all gonna sit around the table. There was no time to ask you, how was your day?
Yeah.
I don't know if I've never had that.
Sure.
Because my mom would come back home after 5. Ukatele. The only question to ask me, did you defrost the chicken?
Chicken, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
And then she'll start cooking. And then I got older. She wanted me to start cooking. That way, it takes away the stress of having to cook. So she'll come back home.
Sure.
I've cooked. And then you learn also that comes in handy because the thing as a man also, it's seasonal.
Yeah.
There's seasons where you're doing well. The season where your wife is popping.
Sure.
And Manga's telling me, your wife popping will make you feel some type of way.
Yeah.
Where one day you come across your wife's payslip, and you're like, yo, I think she. Sure. But as a man, you're gonna hide that. Like I remember sharing that story with my wife once. It's, hey, asking hey, more than me. She's like, but you never showed it. I was like, because I was not intimidated by it.
Yeah.
Some men get intimidated by their partner's shine.
Sure.
And coming through from the background, or I guess my mom's teachings, I was not shaken by it. I was actually happy for it. I was inspired.
Sure.
It made me want to work a little bit harder. Because the man in me, but going back to what you were saying is, when my son was talking to me, I realized that the way you are seeing the world and how you're living this world thing is totally different to the experience that I had. And it speaks to the soul experience that he's having and how his soul is shaping and how he views the world. He sees dad leave, come back home. I sometimes cook. He sometimes sees me do garden work. There's no locked in gender roles. You know, some of us have never seen our dads maybe cook or do anything for our moms. The closest to any TLC your mom has ever experienced from your dad is probably making tea, or you've never seen it before. And that's also part of your upbringing, and what shapes you as a man is how your dad treated your mom. Or treated any other female in the house.
That's good.
So to your point is I would love to believe that the world my son is seeing right now, outside of the materialistic things, it's the principles, it's the creation of his conscious is way different to how mine was. At his age, I was already stressing about other stuff compared to what his stress is. He's probably stressed right now is how is he going to enjoy his holidays, wherever.
Sure. It's great, man. When I think about the soul, you know, a big thing there would be emotional intelligence. Society, culture, social media pushes back to say that as men, we're not emotionally aware. We don't know how to express ourselves. Jason Wilson, who wrote a book called "The Man the Moment Demands," kind of speaks about the emotional range that a man has. You know, and he compares that to the emotional range that a woman has. And his argument is that because we're human, we have the same amount of emotional range, but we've just only tapped into, a certain frequency and a certain level. So he uses crayons to kind of make his point. And he says, you know, a woman would be like the box that has 69 crayons. And so for every situation, she knows what kind of emotion is relevant for a proper and appropriate response. But for a man, we like the box that only has 12 crayons, you know. And so in situations, our emotions are either anger, you know, or violence. You know, and so if you're sad, it expresses itself in how you want to punch things. If you frustrated, you don't know how to engage with what frustration looks like, but instead maybe you withdraw, right? And so he's like, man, it's not that we don't possess those emotions; they're there, but it does require some level of soul work to be aware of that yourself, and then to know what kind of situation demands what emotion, and how to tap into that, right? How have you done that? You know, I mean, I use the illustration of your story with your son. When you're seeing him, there's certain things that you're feeling, and those feelings are helping you realize that, man, we having a totally different experience, but you're not resentful towards your son, because that's another thing, man. You could be frustrated at how well he's living, even though you created that environment for him, you know? So how are you able to navigate that, man? Yeah.
I think it's trying to understand the emotions that exist in between, right? And I'll say that without fear. You see, lama terms now, depression, anxiety.
Sure.
I learned when I got to Joburg.
Sure.
I honestly had no idea what in there. Like,
sure.
Who's umuntu anxiety, who's umuntu depression. Mina bengazuvalo, dog.
Yeah.
Mang it's either novalo, I'm sad, I'm scared, or I'm worried.
Yeah.
Because no one actually probed the other emotions that you felt, or you couldn't go to anyone to explain them to you.
Yeah.
You know, to kind of give you a clear explanation as to what you were feeling, right? Because more people were not exposed.
Sure.
And also it was during the time where it wasn't before the internet. I'm sure these conversations are not being touched on the internet.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't speak on the ladies because I have no idea who they were conversing with.
Sure.
But as a boy child in the hood, no one kind of told me about these other feelings that you would experience until I got to Joburg, and you'd say, hey, dog, there's something I'm feeling. And then the brother would tell you, yo, dog, that's anxiety.
Sure.
They will explain it to you. And then with time, and, you know, when you start also going for therapy and you start chatting to your therapist and you're asking questions, and then they start explaining that it might be depression, you know.
Sure.
Right now I had an episode where they told me I'm exhausted, I need to rest a little bit.
Sure.
It's like, what you mean? My body is tired, so fanele ngihlale, you know? And then I once had an episode like that also, I was 23, where you're just following and hustling so much that you don't take care of your body.
And what do you do when you get that? So you need to sit down, listen to what your heart is telling you, your soul is telling you, but you know that you need to hustle, you're in Joburg, you need to work hard. How do you reconcile that?
I've created spaces where I can just unplug.
Sure.
You know, I think it's very important for us as Amachi that we we carry so much, man. There's so much pressure sometimes that we put on ourselves. There's so much pressure that the world puts on us. That sometimes we forget to enjoy the results of our hard work. You know, just pull yourself away from everything. You know, I was even saying during an interview is that unplugging or enjoying the soft life can't always be the drinks on Sundays. I'm a cheat. There's got to be more out there that we can do as men. You know what I mean? Like, I'm loving this new generation I'm seeing of men going for camping. It's cool. It's doing different things outside of the norm. Get jealous and and that's just us spending time together. There's more. There's more that we can do as gents that we can explore and teach one another. You know? The other day, I went fishing with another dude, and I was like, bro, I had no idea fishing requires so much patience. You know, because you see the highlight reel of someone catching the fish, but you forget that it could have taken 45 minutes for you to catch that fish. And it becomes your sanctuary. It becomes moments of peace. It becomes solitude moments that you can explore by yourself. And I feel like more and more of us as men, we forgot what it's like to be alone when you're not in trouble. Learn to be by yourself even when life is going great. Be by yourself and ask yourself thoughts. Ask yourself questions when things are going well. It's like we only know how to be by ourselves when the world is currently challenging us or we're going through a stormy season. But the problem is that when you only do that when the world is a tad bit stormy, you're always going to have negative questions that trend within your mindset. So if you create habits where you are able to have moments where you can spend, that's why some guys, I always worry when you look at even the numbers, and he said it so well. The reason why you look at the numbers now, more guys killing themselves, because our biggest enemies is our thoughts when we're all by ourselves. When you're by yourself and all the comments and what everyone said about you is ringing heavy in your mind, you start believing it. You forget about the 1,000 people who look up to you, the 1,000 people who see you as a role model. But just because of those two guys that said Uguti, whatever about you, that ends up becoming your reality. But how I've created that is creating routine and patterns where I can embrace my wins, learn from my flaws. And I think those reflections kind of help me clear my soul and fall in love with myself more and more and more and more. And that's one thing I learned from my mom. You know, my mom said, for as long as you love yourself, you're winning.
It's good, bro.
Yeah.
Man, appreciate that, man.
What about you, bro? Your definition of this whole soul conversation.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? What's your idea?
You're asking me the deep question now when they're telling me to wrap up.
What about you, John?
So for me, man, I think, understanding that, you know, my soul is shaped by all of the experiences that I've lived. So one, having an awareness of that and knowing that if I'm going to recorrect any makeup in my soul, I'd have to create new experiences and experiences that are healthy, experiences that would really, you know, benefit the kind of man that I've told myself and I've told people around me that I'm becoming. You know, so trauma would happen. It would leave a mark on your soul. And so if there's gonna be something else that shapes your soul in a different way, there has to be another experience to replace that, you know. So it's creating those experiences for me. It's creating those environments. It's having conversations that are healthy with dudes. It's exactly what you were saying, you know. So I intentionally try and put myself in spaces, in uncomfortable places where I am willing to learn, you know. And so if I see you from a distance and I'm like, man, I know enough that you would give me something that would shape my soul in a more meaningful way. So
and
I
how
just
do you
get
steer
myself
those conversations?
There. How do I?
You know, how do you steer a conversation to a point where you get to what you're trying to unpack? Because I've realized that some gents, and you made a great example when you're talking about nail polish, they'll wait for other people to leave, and then they'll have the real chats with you.
Sure.
Or guys will call you random times at night to ask you things that are really troubling them. How do you choose the people you could share those things with?
Curiosity, bro.
Yeah.
So I always just say, man, I remain curious because, you know, all of us, some dudes might believe differently, but I think it's true of all of us. we want to be heard, right? And you get into a space, you spoke about it earlier on, where certain auras, certain demeanors influence you because the guy comes and asserts himself. If we strip down all of that, the dude just wants to be seen, he wants to be known. And so for me, I'm like, man, I'm trying to be curious about the next guy. And I press in. I'm quick to listen and slow to speak, so that I can give him enough space to just kind of give everything that's in his heart. But once I do that, I'm also creating a feedback loop to him to say, man, that dude listened, and I gave him all of who I am. And so next time he comes, let me lean in with the kind of curiosity. So it's what I was saying to you on the table as well. We need to create culture. We can't just sit and throw stones at culture and say how broken culture is, failing to realize that we are proponents of culture. We are in culture. We're making it, right? To your point of fishing, we are fish in water. And most fish don't stop to ask, what kind of water am I in? But if we're going to be the kind of men who do deep soul work, then we need to be the fish that pause and analyze the kind of waters that we are in. And so I need to press into the waters that I'm in with a level of curiosity for the next man, so that there's a feedback loop. He could create the same thing and press into my soul with a level of curiosity as well, And
as a boy child yourself, preserving culture and continuation of your surname and legacy.
Yeah.
How are you ensuring, that the kids are aware what's in Puma Pinyap? Because now you're in the forefront of the line.
Yeah. So the first thing for me, man, stay at home. Right? When we speak about legacy and even legacy of the soul, stay at home, right? Like, be there, teach the kids, right? Don't teach them from a distance, but be there with them. Drive to school with them. Take them to the pond to fish. Be there, right? So for me, it's that, man. Presence for me is the new form of provision. It's the new form of protection. And if I'm present, then I can give these stories. I can pass on this legacy, and I can shape. You know what I mean? Yeah.
To the older man who feels this generation is sensitive, what do you say?
Be sensitive with us.
Yeah.
Step into the sensitivity.
That's always a chat I pick up, eh?
Yeah.
I'm a good man enough to say, hey, Nikala njalo.
Step into the sensitivity with us, man. Bro, for the sake of time, because I've been flagged, man. Maybe ask your question and then we'll pick it up. But we have to wrap up this session because we passed our 30-minute mark.
Oh, that was great.
It's crazy, man.
Good, man. Jay. Listening to Sabby about the young man coming to the family and asking, do you guys do this every night? So it comes in my mind, see, most of the time, we don't sit together only on Saturday. I know at home, we only sit together on Saturday.
Sure.
Breakfast and lunch, only on Sundays. So when you visit other people and you see, hey, man, this is different. So what's one lesson that you think men should unlearn about culture, family? When I say culture, about Indoraikali, you also mentioned that. Culture, family, and accountability that we should unlearn. What lesson do you think we should unlearn, mentioning those three?
Sure.
My son is only 7, eh? No, he's 8 this year. And I'm realizing now that the conversations are getting more real, It started the other day, it was cold. It's like, Dad, my balls, where are they? I don't see them. I'm like, no, it's cold, And then you realize that there's certain conversations we didn't have with our parents, and you can't shy away from them.
Sure.
We come from families when kissing scenes used to start on TV, they'll switch off the TV. It's time we stop wanting the teachers to do the jobs that we're supposed to do as parents. There's certain teachings that need to start at home. Inkolelo, the history around families, exposing your children to Ikaya. Because what has happened is that most of our families have moved. But take the kids to where Ubabaka, like I always make sure my kid goes to where my father's buried, because I want him to know where his grandfather is.
Sure.
Because that's another reason for him to want to go home, to connect with the seed that brought me into this world. So for me, it starts with conversations like that, is that understanding what is Puma. Hence shows like the one who Grootman Nimrod was hosting, where people wanted to know Baba Babo, you realize the older you get as a man, you just want to know what's in Pumapi.
Sure.
Like family army, it's like Uban, because it ties in with your soul. For as long as you as a man, you have no idea what's Upumapi, or later on you find out which is bongo sama maka kusafane usebenzise, all those things, it kind of throws you off. It's like what kind of man am I supposed to be? So I think unlearning the fear of not knowing also is fine. You know, don't be scared to say to intwana yakhe yazini asiye kumkhulu siyobuza ifuna umkhulu, you know, or asiye kwasibanibani siyobuza. Showing your boy child ukuthi if ungayo answer, it's fine kuyobuza someone else who might have. Because abanye amajita fela ngaphakathi without even asking for usizo or going to someone else to ask for help, because when uhlala ukufuna ukwazi yonke into, it's fine not to know sometimes.
Sure.
And one thing I've learned from my therapist who said this is that it's very important and powerful for your kid to see you as a dad say you do not know, because they rate you as a hero. Dad knows everything. So it makes them feel good, because sometimes my heroes don't know.
Sure.
Because what does my hero do? He takes me to another place so he could learn. So it also teaches your child, you don't have to, it's fine to be human. Show as in you don't know everything.
That's good.
You know what I mean? So it's also not being scared to be vulnerable in front of your children. It's also part of the learnings, yeah.
Sorry, bro. We have to wrap up because of time. Bro.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's give it up for Sabby.
Sharp.
Yeah, appreciate that, man. Section number 2 done. Now we are jumping straight into section number 3 with Zweli Dube, where we're looking at the body, and we're not just speaking about how men should take care of themselves, although that is a crucial thing, because our health is our wealth. Our health is super important, and it doesn't matter if you speak about legacy, you speak about marriage, you speak about all the things that you want to build, but you're not going to be there physically to show up for all those things. So it is important, it's crucial for us to care for ourselves physically and look after our bodies. But man, the thing that we try and draw out of this section is, how do we look after ourselves as training grounds so that we can look after our neighbor, right? And your nearest neighbor is your wife or your children, and then those that you meet outside of your house. So how do you clothe yourself so that it can be training ground to clothe your wife and your kid? How do you feed yourself so that it can be training ground for how you can feed your wife and your kid and your subsequent neighbors? Whatever it is that you want to do for yourself, use that as training ground so that you can do that for other people. Why? Because if you just do it for yourself, that is such a short-sighted goal, because you can remain healthy, but then what about your neighbor? We don't have a society that's healthy holistically in that regard. So if I look after myself, let that be training ground so that I can look after the next person. If I'm married, that's my wife, that's my kid, and then my other neighbors who come after that. All right, so let's jump into this section. Make sure again that you're leaving your thoughts. We'd love to engage with you. All right, see you on the flip side of this. Good, man. Good. So we're getting you on the final session to talk about the body. When we look around the room, our bodies are probably shot because of all the food we've been having and the drinks we've been having. So you have the crazy task of saying important things to us when we feel lethargic and we feel the way that we're feeling right now.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Yeah,
it's good, brother.
It's an honor.
What have you gotten so far from the conversation? What are some chats that you're having with gents around your table about the first 2 sessions?
A lot of insight, eh?
Yeah.
Of things that we want to discuss, but sometimes because of the space that we're in, we kind of limit ourselves to being vulnerable, which I think we're in a space and a time now where vulnerability shouldn't be regarded as a weakness.
Sure.
It's actually a very powerful thing.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, Sabant, we feel things. We experience as well tough challenges. I mean, fathers. I mean, there are fathers in here, husbands, you name it. You know.
Yeah.
But before I even get into that, I think we should speaking about Grootman,
Sure.
I'd like to give a shout out and just really celebrate two gentlemen that are here that I look up to.
Sure.
We are really in the midst of greatness. Ubabuchiko Twala Bafetu is here. We can do better than that.
You can give him a hoy.
Yeah.
Hoy.
And the second person for me, who I really looked up to and wanted to be like, Unimrod Nkosi, Gem Early Days and beyond.
Come on now.
Yeah, let's give them our flowers. Give them their flowers, yeah.
That's what's up, brother.
And they're in shape as well for their age, by the way. Yeah, sure.
Why did you feel the need to give a shout out to those guys now?
I think as much as we get into these deep conversations, we need to celebrate each other as men.
Yeah.
I don't think we pat ourselves enough to actually say, hey, Ntanga, man, you're doing well.
Sure.
Or Ntanga, actually, no, you need to calm down now.
Yeah.
Sure. And I think that's where we really need to get into real friendships.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of fake people out there. And I'd like to believe that the more we are engaged with each other, tell me something, whether it's going to hurt me, it's not going to sit comfortable with me.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It's not a reflection necessarily of who you are. It's just sometimes it's healthy for other people to see a different perspective. And that's what I always appreciate.
Sure.
If somebody can just tell me the truth, because sometimes I suppose not fun. So
that's good, man.
Absolutely.
That's good. From how you look, you're definitely a guy who takes care of himself.
You don't say. No.
Come on now. Come on now.
Thank you.
And
lots of hard work.
Yeah. And this section is obviously trying to think about the body.
Sure.
Earlier on when we spoke, man, you just spoke about how enthusiastic you are about looking after yourself.
Sure.
Basic question, why is it important for us to look after ourselves, and how can you then encourage us as men to be enthusiastic about how we care for our bodies?
Well, I think, forgive me, I'm going to get a little bit religious.
Sure.
So it's funny, today is Sunday, right?
Yeah.
This is the day that I lost and said goodbye to one of my favorite GROOTMA'Ns, which was my dad.
Sure.
Last year, may God rest his soul.
Sure.
It was on this day that he passed on.
Sorry, brother.
And it's interesting that I'm here today, and being a Sunday, I actually read a Bible verse when I was here, and it's the book of Psalms, which says, love the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding.
Come on, man.
For the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom.
Yeah.
And as we sit here, I think it's so important to gain that wisdom from one another.
Yeah.
So getting back to your question, Black, and congratulations as well on your podcast. You're doing great, man.
Thank you, brother.
Personally, when I look good, I feel good.
Come on.
I feel good,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, but you've got health issues.
Yeah.
Sizani mangabe we out laphana udanswembu, but at the same time awukho grand langaphakathi.
Yeah.
And I think there's a misconception with, especially thina abantu abajimayo bathanda ukusibhara ama-out. Le ngayiwisa phansi. And that's not the point. I think for instance, I was not always like this. It was never easy. I mean, I've been in this game for 18 years.
Sure.
I started training in 2003. 2003.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing then, right? So there's a lot of mistakes that I made. I was always listening to other people's opinions. I walked into a gym. I walked into a workout session. I was doing what other people were doing. And until I started to read about this stuff and really understanding about mental strength, spiritual strength, emotional strength.
Yeah.
And so I mean, in terms of, the body's a temple, and if you don't respect your body enough, and honestly, I don't think there's a misconception what you see on the outside complements what's going on inside. That's not true.
Yeah, sure.
Even a Zweli gets sick.
Yeah.
Even a Zweli, dies out. Even a Zweli gets lazy.
Yeah.
But I try by all means necessary to not compete with anyone but myself.
That's good, man.
So a healthy body is a healthy mind. And I just want to thank the organizers. I just had 3 steaks today.
Come on.
Really good, so, yeah. So
Yeah.
They fed me really well.
Come
yeah.
on,
So,
man.
yeah, it is, yeah.
Gentlemen, just to remind you again, you're invited into this conversation. You can send your questions in through the app, or you can come to the mic in front and chat with us. Somebody had asked the question in the previous session, but I think it's also important for this one. How can we maintain discipline when motivation decreases?
Oh, that's a very good one, eh?
Yeah.
I think first and foremost, discipline is freedom.
Sure. Say more, man.
Yeah, what I always say to people is, if you have an ambition or you have a dream of having body goals, if it's just going to be a dream, ultimately it's going to fuel disappointment.
Sure.
Because on your way to achieving those body goals, in any shape or form, you have to apply discipline. But more importantly, you have to apply consistency and commitment. Because without consistency, you will never start. Sorry, without commitment, you'll never start. And without consistency, you'll never finish.
Sure.
I know it's hard. I don't believe in people who say, Mfana, I don't have time.
Yeah.
Dog, you make time.
Sure.
Because there's research here right now, I can tell you there's somebody who's begging for a second chance in hospital.
Yeah.
Simply because of that ignorance.
Yeah.
If only I had listened to the doctors, if only I had listened to the health experts. Like I said, I lost my dad, who was an excessive drinker, and God rest his soul. I loved him so much. He never raised me.
Yeah.
But hail to the queen, who was my mom, because my mom always made it clear to me that he was not going to trash that man.
Yeah.
Your father will always be your dad, no matter what, even if I'm not there.
Sure.
And I tried, like even when he was, in and out of hospital, we would see, can you just change your life? But there's only so much you can do. Like I said, we are here to help each other. But until you do the groundwork and get in there, it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah, Zweli can say all the things you like to hear,
Sure.
but until you get in there and you take care of business,
Yeah.
it's going to take a lot. Yeah.
When you speak like that, obviously, you have a question, sir. You can go to the mic in the meantime. You can go to the mic in the meantime. When you speak like this, it's automatically go to where a lot of us kind of are and are afraid to even acknowledge that's where we are, where we know we're supposed to be looking after ourselves physically. And one of the ways is to, visit a doctor regularly. In fact, a question came in here and says, why do you think men want to avoid health or physical issues? Why don't we go consult with a doctor and check?
I think it's because it's the fear of the unknown.
Sure.
Yeah, we're always, what if I get there and I hear this from the doctor? But so would you like to actually get there on a stretcher so that the doctor tells you that you've got 3 months to live?
It's crazy.
Rather be in a position to know than not to know.
Yeah.
And I think, guys, now information is at the tip of our fingers.
Yeah.
When I started trying to change my lifestyle, there was no Facebook, there was no Instagram, there was no YouTube.
Yeah.
So it's right there. So I think that, but information is key because it's not easy for everyone to just get into this.
That's good, man.
Yeah.
A lot of us here would agree that, we as men have ambitions to want to protect, provide, look after our families. We'll even say things like we would die for our families. But I think a better motive is to probably stay healthy and be alive for your family instead of trying to take a bullet for them, which is noble and it's good. But a bullet might not come.
Absolutely.
But your health is vital and it's always screaming at you day in and day out, man. Yeah.
So here's my take. For those who say, I'll die for my family.
Yeah.
I disagree. I want to live for my family.
That's what I'm saying, man. Come on, bro.
Because when I'm dead, what use am I?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I want to live for my family.
That's dope, bro.
Sure.
That's dope. So, you had a question, man.
Okay, it's working. So, I think my question is a bit of a naughty one. Yo, to my GROOTMAN'S. But my question that I have for you guys is, how do you guys navigate your sexual life in terms of how do you guys open up to your partners to what you want and what you like sexually? Because I personally feel like it kind of like adds on to why we have so many divorce rates and whatnot. Because as time goes on, naturally, I would understand that one person becomes less sexually attracted to their partner for some whatever reason. And this is the platform for us to discuss those reasons. Why is it, how are we navigating the sexual life? Is there a way to approach our partners about new things to try? Is there
Sure.
is there a way of trying to save that marriage whereby you still see your partner as attractive as the person that you were about to cheat with? You know what I mean? So I think for me, like, a conversation about GROOTMA'N'S and relationships and everything is not complete if we don't tackle the sexual aspect, because
Sure.
I think it plays a very big role, because we are sexual beings, and we love sex. and how we
Yeah, you
how
clearly
we
love it.
navigate. No, we all do. Hey, we all do.
No, we
nigga.
got the gist of your question, but you love it so much, you're still going on.
No, but I'm trying to get to your point, nigga. Like,
No, it's
we
good,
need
my
to-
bro. It's good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's give it up. Let's give it up for the gentleman. Any thoughts from the floor? If you want to engage on that, please come to the mic or send in your response. I'll read it for you. Any thoughts on that, man? How do we speak about our sexual well-being or sexual health as men?
Sure. I don't want to speak for everybody,
Sure.
because I think we can look at this question from an individualistic point of view.
Yeah.
I mean, there was marriage, obviously, that was asked, which I'm not married.
Sure.
But I'd like to think that I think it's very important to be able to have a partner where you're going to have those uncomfortable conversations, right? Because they build your relationship.
Sure.
I'm one who's very outspoken.
Sure.
So masikhuluma sizoyikhuluma into, no matter how private it is. But I think things work differently for everybody. It's also how you approach it. I could sit here and act like I'm a sexologist or I'm an expert on such conversations. But I think it's only fair that for every relationship, it's different, it's unique, depending on how you speak, how you navigate things, how you narrate things to one another.
That's good, man.
I don't know what's your take, because I mean there was an aspect of marriage.
Yeah, sure.
So I think.
Yeah. So for me, man, I think it's just posturing my own heart, my own soul, to know that sex, especially in marriage, is not primarily for me, but it's a gift that I'm using primarily to serve my wife. And so I come in with that approach. I come in with that, and I think that also ties into this conversation around the body. It's probably going to be a little longer, but please bear with me. I think even how I care for myself physically, that's supposed to be training ground on how I need to care for my wife. Or care for my kids or the next neighbor around me. How I clothe myself is supposed to be training ground for how I can clothe my wife, clothe my kids, and clothe those who don't have clothes around me. And so I approach sex in the same way. It's not primarily for me. It is a gift that I need to give my wife. And instead of asking her first what she should do for me, I'm trying to ask what I can do for her. I need to ask how I need to serve her. I need to show up for her. And if I'm doing that, especially as a man, as a husband, and I'm leading the charge, women naturally, biologically, are supposed to take in, multiply, and give back. So if I'm giving service, man, that kind of sex that she's going to give me back is going to be 10 times more. But if I go in wanting, man, I'm training her and communicating to her that she should also just want and never give and never serve at all. So I need to lead that charge of service, man, and that's what I'm saying, right? Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So she's gonna ask me. What I'm saying is, if I get in and I'm asking her what she like, and I serve her, I'm creating an environment where she's gonna reciprocate that and ask me. So you've served me. What can I do for you? Right? And then we could talk about. But I'm not leading with that. I'm not leading with that, right? And let me also just add this nugget here and say, it's funny how, as men, because I totally disagree with the notion that men don't talk. The world's authors, majority of them are men. Presidents in the world are men. We talk. Radio hosts, the majority of them are men. We talk, right? But it's strange how men talk everywhere else. At church, it's a pastor, you speak. Around your table with gents, you speak. But when it comes to the bedroom, you don't speak. You don't speak, right? You could be loud outside, yeah. When you get into the bedroom, all you're hearing is, And then afterwards, you don't speak and take data. How did I do, right? What did I do well? What didn't I do well, right? But again, there's a whole lot of other things that would come with that, because if there isn't any clear parameters about what this kind of relationship is, and you guys are committed till death do you apart, then I would understand why you wouldn't even have the level of vulnerability that that moment requires, right? So anyway, sorry, bro, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to interject a little bit. Not interject, but like be part of it. So my name is Zulu Goku, content creator.
Come on.
The brother in the blue, you're looking good, brother.
Thank you.
You outside.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So do you think as Mjita, do you think that we don't hold each other accountable in terms of how we are, like physical health and stuff? Because you go out of your chance every other weekend or every time you say, hey, we're having a few drinks and stuff, but you don't say, hey, have you had some fruit this week? Have you had some vegetables this week? Have you had some water? Because when you go out, we tend to overindulge and stuff, but we never hold each other accountable. We never hold each other accountable. And then when it bleeds into the, like what you said, the sexual aspect, because more often than not, that's what affects our performance in the bedroom, is how we take care of each other, how we take care of ourselves. And then it bleeds into that. And then we're wondering why, like, okay, I can't perform, or it's not getting up, and like, oh, the brother in the pants, like, hey, stand up, the coach is subbing you in, and now I need you here, but like, I haven't been.
And now you have to drink special teas.
You know what I'm saying? No, I haven't been taking care of you. I haven't been making sure that you're nourished, that you're fine and stuff. Do you think that as gents, do we hold each other to account? Obviously, as a brother at gyms, you're with your gym bros, and a lot of them are not necessarily your friends that you hang out with on a day-to-day. There are people that when you bump into them, you go to the gym and like, hey, what's going on? You don't really know their life story. You don't know anything. You're like, hey, we lift our weights, we bench. You ask me to spot me, and then we move on. So do you think that as gents in our personal lives, you don't hold each other to the same account?
It's good, bro.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Thanks for the compliment.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, we're not prepared to listen. I've discovered that a lot of us think we know it all. Yeah,
Sure.
So my issue is that I'm not here to babysit you. If I tell you once, maybe twice. If you don't appreciate it, then that reflection is on you.
Yeah.
That's your problem. There's this notion, and this is no offense to anybody. Unfortunately, it's the very conversations regarding health and wellness that don't seem to go down well. Because because when now Pussy is Kenya when man is living life. And then I'm like, no, but Ndanga, all I'm trying to do is to pass on a little bit of knowledge to you in terms of how to live your life better. And look, it's not an easy thing. Like I said, there are people who make excuses. Guys, this is one of my favorite philosophies. You can make excuses or get results, but you can't have both.
Come on, man.
You can't.
Sure.
What you do today and the decisions that you make today are going to have an impact on your life tomorrow, with your children, with your wife, with your career, you name it. So I think the problem is that we don't want to listen. We think we know it all. And we're so quick to reject each other simply because of what you have, the badge you wear, the career you have, the position you hold. It's that mentality. And I'm just like, why not be able to be in a vulnerable space? Because here's the thing. I have had friends who at one stage in their life were not necessarily, I just want to use this word carefully. We're not overweight. But Ntanga, do you remember 2 years ago when I said to you, Uguti, it's because of this food that you're consuming. Perhaps you should take it easy. Try this, try that. And then it's only at that time where they say, okay, I'm ready to do it. But maybe if you had listened from the word go, it would have made a difference in your life. So yeah, it's that. As Funuklalela, we think we know it all. We're not receptive enough because after all, the space that we're speaking in. I mean, I understand it. You know, there's conversations that aren't really going down well namachita, right?
Sure,
Mr.
sure,
Chwaleni, Miss Shine Bombi, but hey, hold on. You know, maybe don't be selfish. What about thinking about your kids? Because you're a representation of who your children are. They look up to you, and we need to start being role models as well in the household.
Yeah.
I would say, my son, my daughter, can she once just say, I want to be like my dad. I want to be like my mom, you know, because they're a mirror of who you are. So they look at you when they wake up. They look at you when they go to sleep.
And do you think, this is the second part of the first question, sorry.
Sure.
Do you not think as part of a community, because obviously what we're trying to build here is to emphasize more on community, that we also need to be, we're already tolerant as a community, very tolerant. We endure a lot, we see a lot, we experience a lot already. And obviously you're gonna complain that the whole premise of platforms like this is to be like, okay, we have a platform to also vent that being part of a community is tough. Especially if you're a person that you're used to gym, like you don't overindulge on things like liquor or anything. I take my dietary things very seriously. And then when you try and advise your community, you'll be like, hey, I'm not trying to say that you're overweight. I'm not trying to say anything, but it was like, maybe if you ate a apple or some grapes now and then. And then the frustration that comes with it, because obviously it's going to come with rejection, because they're going to be like, hey, you know,
my point exactly.
You look this way. Do you think we want to look like you? I'm like, I'm not saying look like me. So do you not think that part of having platforms like this also just having the endurance to be like, okay, I have to be more tolerant and be more understanding. These people are not going to immediately accept what I have to say. As much as they can see the results, we can see them, but like, this is how they're living, and then you have to just be more patient with them. Do you not think that we need platforms to teach us patience more with our community as well?
And I mean, we're getting there. I mean, it's one step at a time, huh? I suppose if you can't save the world, you can start by saving your neighbor. Correct? Because I mean, look, gym is not for everybody, guys, and I attest to that, and I support that. I understand, and it's not just gym. I think there's a misconception. As Jimmy Pela, exercise, be active, be healthy, do something that's going to keep you in good shape, or rather in a very good health condition. You know, it's not about eating. There's cardiovascular, your heart, your vital organs need it as well.
That's good.
And also, guys, hey, I want to live longer and healthier as well.
Sure. We don't want to just get to the end of our lives. We want to get there being healthy. We want to get there in good quality.
100%.
But I do think, to the brother's question, man, there is a correlation, you know, to some of the struggles that we have mentally, emotionally, to how we actually look after ourselves physically. There was a brother of mine who came to me, and he was just, you know, being transparent and wanting help, because he was struggling with, you know, just watching pornography excessively. And the first thing I asked him, yo, what are you eating? Right? And he couldn't connect the thing. And I was just like, man, it's your mind is not looked after. Your mind is polluted with what you're feeding your body. There's not enough fuel. There's not enough exercising. You know, we don't live in a country that's considered a blue zone. A blue zone are countries where people from the time they wake up in the morning till they sleep, they never stop moving. They're constantly moving, right? But we're not in a blue zone. So we leave our beds, we get in our car, we're sitting. The only walking we have is between our car and our office, and then we're sitting in the office the rest of the day. And then we get out, go back home. So if we're not gonna look after ourselves physically so that our health is good, man, then all of these other issues that we have will definitely kind of grow and expand far beyond what they're supposed to be, if we would just look after ourselves. You know, in more physical ways. So I think there's a critical note there. Somebody says, in light of the question that we had before, how do you remain attracted to your partner? since we're speaking about the body. As men, how do we remain attracted to our partners?
Sure. Yeah. Such a good question. So broad as well.
Yeah.
I'm getting that into my type.
Yeah, sure.
It's like, yeah, I mean, I'm type, yeah, I mean, all of that. And I always wonder because there's so much people tolerate, right? To some degree. But I'm a firm believer who would say you set an example.
Sure.
And approach is also very important. I think if I'm going to be a partner, and yes, I do exercise and I try my best by all means necessary to keep a healthy mind, a healthy body, and a healthy spirit. Again, you've got to be in a position to be receptive. You know.
Sure.
But some things do take time. I think don't rush a person and expect them to simply, you know, comply or you know, to just miraculously start going to gym or exercising.
Sure.
But maybe also be a helping hand in making them realize how it's affecting you.
Come on, bro.
Right? Before it affects them. And how important it is to you. Like I said, information is at the tip of our fingers.
Good,
the number one disease or killer as a disease in the world is ischemic heart disease. Right? It's not AIDS, it's not COVID, it's not, you know, it's and the heart is such a vital organ. I mean, so many, like I said, my father is a true example. I spent almost 2 months in the hospital with him. I watched him deteriorate.
It's crazy, man.
From the time I took him to the hospital. In fact, I found him, he was collapsed. And he had actually broken his rotator because on his shoulder.
Sure, man.
And I had to take him to the hospital. From the time they started doing scans, right? And blood tests and all of that. Bro, 7 days every single week from then when he actually was admitted on the 30th of October last year, I literally saw the man dying.
Sheesh.
And there was nothing I could do about it.
Man. Sure.
There is no better way to explain this. And I kept on saying to myself, I wish I had done more. But then I realized he would have been 73 this year. And I noticed, would see, you know, God rest his soul, I tried my best, but at the end of the day, what did I take from that?
Sure.
That's what's important. So when I lost him, I realized, you know what? This is a lesson to me as well. Which I can also do better. So there's certain things that I need to sacrifice. That's another thing. Sorry, coming back to that question. Is what are you prepared to sacrifice?
Sacrifice, bro. That's good.
In the family, with your mind, with your body and your soul.
That's good, bro.
Yeah, because it's not sometimes what you're eating, it's what you need to stay away from.
Come on, bro. Yeah.
That's what you
Which
need
is
to
harder.
Yeah, which is harder.
Which is harder, yeah, sure. No, man, I appreciate that. That's been dope, man. I think before we just wrap up this session, just want to throw in a couple of thoughts, and then I'd want you to just end this off with a couple of encouragements, things that we can take, next steps to look after our bodies, and maybe just the word again, the way you started by acknowledging the GROOTMA'N'S. How do you acknowledge the young guys, the young cats in the room, and how they come up after my GROOTMA'n? But my closing thoughts was in light of that question of how you stay attracted to your partner. And it comes off the back of you saying now that we need to have a mindset as men. You know, so if I'm gonna be a man who wants my partner to be attractive, I need to remember that as a man, I provide more than finances. I provide the culture of our relationship. I provide, the protection with my presence. I provide the spiritual climate, etc. And so before I get into a relationship, if I'm in a marriage or a family and demand things, I need to be aware of my own authority and how I can create that space and create that culture. And it comes off the back of a man who knows that he needs to be giving of himself. You know, you need to be at the altar to die to yourself so that you can create this kind of culture that you want. So before you demand that your spouse or or your partner become attractive, has she seen that kind of determination in you to even support that, to even create an environment to house that from her? You know what I mean? So I think as I land the plane, at least when I think about the body, man, the body is such again, just a physical reminder to kill it. So if you kill your body, man, that should remind you to kill your ego, kill your pride, so that you can show up in more healthy ways for those that you can love for, right? Yeah.
It's powerful, man.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I think for me, I stand namachita. I know Utsi. We go through it, man. We go through a lot.
Sure.
We go through a lot, and I think what motivates me a lot of the times, especially when I pray, I've adapted to something where I go, instead of asking for so much, maybe just be a little bit more grateful. Yeah. Maybe instead of wondering what it is that you don't have, maybe start appreciating what you already have. If you're able to walk, if you're able to use your hands, if you're able to see, that is a gift.
Sure.
Just through our trials, our tribulations, through our flights, our rough landings, some of us, are slowly but surely sinking into depression because of our finances. Some of us are sinking in depression because of how we look, where we stay, where we live, what car do you drive. But at the end of the day, I might dog be grateful.
Come on, man.
Yeah, there's many people who would wish to be in your position.
Come on, man.
Believe it or not. Yeah,
Appreciate
so
that,
take care of yourselves. And I think let's just keep reminding each other. Like I said in the beginning, if you're not going to tell me my wrongs, and if I'm not ready to listen to somebody else telling me, we can see now, this is not you.
Yeah.
You also to get yourself together. So let's create an audience where we don't necessarily clap for negativity. Let's be solution based.
That's good, bro.
And let's be real.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Appreciate that, bro, man. Thank
you,
you so much for that and all the insights. And I want to thank publicly just all our guests who came before. Zweli. Let's give it up for Penson. Let's give it up for Penson. Spoke to us about the mind. Let's give it up for DJ Sabby. Let's give it up for DJ Sabby. He's
Sabby. See, my voice works, bro.
Come on, man. It does. Let's give it up for yourself, man. Let's give it up for yourself for showing up. This has been incredible. Again, if you have any insights and you want to share more of your thoughts, do not forget to use hashtag the GROOTMAN'S table, the GROOTMAN'S table. But let this just be the beginning of the conversation. Continue having these chats in your friendship circles with other gents, with other GROOTMAN'S as you meet with them, so that we can show up and be the kind of man that our country need, our families need, and the kind of men we need ourselves, right? So,
man, Black.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, well done. You held it down, bro.
Appreciate it, man.
You held it down.
One final, hoi. Man, hope you enjoyed all of that. We want to give a big shout out again to JQ for organizing this GROOTMAN'S table. And JQ, we are asking, man, from the bottom of our hearts, please organize another one. In fact, we are asking that you have several of these kind of conversations next year because they need it and they are really helping change the narrative. They're changing the status quo. They're changing narratives on how we think about ourselves as men, and they're impacting how we see ourselves from society's perspective and how we can keep ourselves accountable and how we show up. So please make sure that you are organizing more of these, and we are raising our hands to say we want to be there to host, to facilitate, to have a conversation with men. And we want to see this happening across the country. So JQ, maybe as an idea, let's get in a J7 and drive around the country so that we can go have conversations with other men in South Africa. But man, please leave your comments, your thoughts. What did you think about the mind, the soul, the body conversations that we had? We would like to interact with you. So leave your thoughts and comments. If you're a man, we would love to connect. If you're a woman, please send this to your brother, your husband, your colleague, somebody that you know. If your mother, send this to your son, and let us continue engaging and encouraging the males around us so that they can show up as the men that we want them to be, or the men that the moment demands them to be. All right, from me and the squad, we will see you on the flip side From us, it's been an incredible one. Jaku, thank you so much. The GROOTMAN'S table, shout outs to every guy who rocked up, and we pray and hope that you would continue having the conversation, that this was just only the beginning for you, that you start unpacking some of these dope conversations and have them with other GROOTMAN'S as you sit around the table, having meaningful, healthy chats that are constructive and build us and move us forward to the country that we want to see. All right, from me and the squad, we will see you next week, Wednesday. All right, peace.